I returned from my honeymoon and found a huge black box in my hallway. When I opened the box, my husband screamed, "This can't be! This can't be happening! Welcome to the channel. Enjoy the video, give it a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, comment and share." The sun was setting over the Boston skyline as Olivia Hawthorne fumbled with her keys, eager to step into the comfort of her luxurious penthouse apartment. Her husband, Nathan Blackwell, stood behind her, their matching golden tans a testament to their recent honeymoon in the Maldives. As the door swung open, Olivia's breath caught in her throat. There, in the middle of their pristine hallway, sat an enormous black box. "Nathan, what's that?" Olivia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathan frowned, his brow furrowing. "I have no idea. It wasn't here when we left." Olivia approached the box cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. It was about the size of a small coffee table, with no markings or labels to indicate its origin. She ran her hand over the smooth, cool surface, feeling a shiver run down her spine. "Should we open it?" she asked, glancing back at Nathan. He nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving the mysterious object. "I suppose we should. It could be a wedding gift that arrived while we were away." Olivia knelt beside the box, her fingers searching for an opening. As she found the latch and began to lift the lid, Nathan suddenly shouted, "Wait!" But it was too late. The lid flew open, revealing a jumble of papers, photographs, and what looked like financial documents. Olivia's eyes widened as she caught glimpses of familiar names and numbers. "This can't be!" Nathan cried out, his face suddenly pale. "This can't be happening!" Olivia's hand trembled as she reached for one of the photographs. It showed Nathan, her Nathan, in what appeared to be a clandestine meeting with a group of men she didn't recognize. The timestamp on the photo was from just 3 months ago, when Nathan had told her he was on a business trip to Chicago. "Nathan," she said, her voice quivering, "what is all this?" Before he could answer, the sharp click of heels echoed through the hallway. Olivia turned to see her mother, Victoria Hawthorne, striding towards them with purposeful steps. The older woman's face was a mask of determination, her silver hair gleaming in the fading light. "I see you found my little welcome home gift," Victoria said, her voice cool and controlled. Olivia stood up, confusion and anger warring within her. "Mom, you put this here. What's going on?" Victoria's gaze settled on Nathan, who looked as if he might be sick. "Why don't you ask your husband, dear? I'm sure he has quite a story to tell." Nathan's eyes darted between Olivia and Victoria, panic evident in every line of his face. "Olivia, I can explain. It's not what it looks like." "Oh?" Victoria raised an eyebrow. "So those aren't photos of you meeting with known criminals? Those documents don't show suspicious transfers of large sums of money?" Olivia felt as if the floor was tilting beneath her feet. She steadied herself against the wall, her mind reeling. "Nathan, please, tell me what's going on." Nathan took a deep breath, running a hand through his dark hair. "Olivia, I'm not who you think I am." Victoria let out a harsh laugh. "That's an understatement if I ever heard one. Your beloved husband isn't just a successful financial consultant, Olivia. He's a fraud, a con man who's been using you to get close to our family's wealth." Olivia shook her head, unwilling to believe her mother's words. "No, that can't be true. Nathan loves me. We just got married, for heaven's sake." "A marriage of convenience," Victoria snapped. "He's after the Hawthorne fortune, nothing more." Nathan stepped forward, his hands outstretched in a placating gesture. "Olivia, please, you have to listen to me. Yes, I've been hiding things from you, but it's not what your mother thinks. I'm not a con man." Victoria scoffed. "Then what are you, Mr. Blackwell? Or should I say whoever you really are?" The tension in the room was palpable as Olivia looked between her mother and her husband, her world crumbling around her. The man she thought she knew, the man she had pledged her life to just 2 weeks ago, suddenly seemed like a stranger. "I'm waiting for an explanation, Nathan," Olivia said, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathan closed his eyes for a moment as if steeling himself. When he opened them, there was a newfound resolve in his gaze. "I'm not a fraud and I'm not after your money. I'm an undercover agent." The silence that followed his declaration was deafening. Olivia felt as if all the air had been sucked out of the room. "An undercover agent?" she repeated, disbelief coloring her words. Victoria laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "Oh, that's rich. Do you expect us to believe that?" Nathan's jaw clenched. "It's the truth. I've been working on a case involving money laundering and corporate espionage. A case that, I'm afraid to say, involves Hawthorne Technologies. Olivia's head snapped up at the mention of her family's company. What are you talking about? Our company is clean. We've never been involved in anything illegal. Are you so sure about that, Olivia? Nathan asked gently. Have you ever wondered why your father's death was so sudden, so unexpected? Victoria's face drained of color. Don't you dare bring Charles into this, she hissed, but Nathan pressed on. Your father didn't die in an accident, Olivia. He was murdered because he discovered something he shouldn't have. Something big. Olivia felt her knees go weak. She stumbled to the nearest chair, sinking into it as the weight of Nathan's words crashed over her. Murdered? Dad was murdered? Victoria's composure cracked, a flicker of pain crossing her face before she schooled her features once more. You don't know what you're talking about, she said to Nathan, but her voice lacked its earlier conviction. I think I do, Nathan replied. I've been investigating this case for years. That's why I got close to Olivia. I needed access to Hawthorne Technologies. Olivia's head was spinning. She looked up at Nathan, tears stinging her eyes. So our entire relationship, our marriage, it was all a lie? Nathan knelt before her, taking her hands in his. No, Olivia. God, no, I never meant to fall in love with you, but I did, love. Everything I feel for you is real. I swear it. Victoria snorted. How convenient. You expect us to believe you're some sort of hero working undercover to solve my husband's murder. Not exactly, Nathan said, standing up to face Victoria. I didn't know about Charles's murder when I started this investigation, but as I dug deeper, I uncovered a conspiracy that goes far beyond Hawthorne Technologies. Your husband stumbled upon it, and it cost him his life. Olivia stood up, her legs shaky but her resolve strengthening. I want to know everything, she declared. No more lies, no more half-truths, both of you. She looked between Nathan and Victoria. Are going to tell me exactly what's going on. Right now. As if on cue, a sharp knock at the door cut through the tension. All three turned to look, frozen in place as the knocking grew more insistent. Ms. Hawthorne, this is Agent Cooper from the FBI. We need to talk. Olivia's eyes widened as she looked at Nathan, who seemed equally surprised. Victoria, however, straightened her spine and marched toward the door. It's about time you got here, she muttered as she swung the door open. A tall, distinguished man in a dark suit stepped into the apartment, his keen eyes taking in the scene before him. I see introductions won't be necessary, he said dryly. Nathan, you weren't supposed to blow your cover. Nathan ran a hand through his hair. Things got complicated, Ethan. I didn't have a choice. Olivia's head was spinning. Wait, you two know each other? What's going on here? Agent Cooper, Ethan, turned to Olivia with a sympathetic look. Ms. Hawthorne, I'm afraid your honeymoon is over in more ways than one. We have a lot to discuss and not much time. The people who killed your father are making their move, and we need to act fast. As Olivia stood there, surrounded by her mother, her not-quite-husband and an FBI agent, she realized that her life had irrevocably changed. The truth was unraveling before her, promising to be more complex and dangerous than she could have ever imagined. Little did she know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would test her love, her loyalty, and everything she thought she knew about her family and herself. Olivia's mind raced as she tried to process the bombshell that had just been dropped on her life. She looked around the room at the faces of people she thought she knew, now seeming like strangers. Her mother, Victoria, stood near the door, her posture rigid, but her eyes betraying a hint of, was that fear? Nathan, or whoever he really was, looked torn between concern for Olivia and a grim determination. And then there was this new player, Agent Cooper, who seemed to hold all the cards. I think we should all sit down, Agent Cooper suggested, his tone leaving no room for argument. What I'm about to tell you isn't easy to hear, but it's crucial that you understand the gravity of the situation. They moved to the living room, the tension palpable as they settled into the plush leather sofas. Olivia noticed how Nathan instinctively sat next to her, his hand reaching for hers before he caught himself and pulled back. The small gesture and his hesitation made her heart ache. First things first, Agent Cooper began, his piercing gaze sweeping across the room. Nathan Blackwell isn't his real name. He's Agent Ethan Reynolds, one of our best undercover operatives. He's been working this case for the past 3 years. Olivia felt a chill run down her spine. 3 years. That was longer than she'd known Nathan. Ethan. Their entire relationship had been built on a lie. What case? She managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. Agent Cooper leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. We've been tracking a sophisticated money laundering operation that's been funneling billions of dollars through seemingly legitimate businesses. Your family's company, Hawthorne Technologies, is one of the unwitting conduits for this operation. Victoria bristled at this. That's impossible. I run a tight ship. There's no way. With all due respect, Mrs. Hawthorne, Cooper interrupted, you don't know everything that goes on in your company. Your late husband discovered the same thing, and it cost him his life. Olivia felt as if she'd been punched in the gut. So it's true, Dad was murdered. Ethan nodded solemnly. I'm sorry, Olivia. We believe Charles Hawthorne stumbled upon evidence of the money laundering scheme. Before he could report it, he was silenced. Victoria's composure finally cracked. Tears welled up in her eyes as she sank deeper into the sofa. I always suspected, but I couldn't prove anything. They made it look like an accident. Who are they? Olivia demanded, anger now mixing with her confusion and grief. Agent Cooper's expression darkened. We call them the Network. They're a shadowy organization with tentacles in finance, technology, and even government. They've managed to stay off the radar for years, always one step ahead of law enforcement. Ethan picked up the thread. That's why I was sent in. We needed someone on the inside, someone who could get close to the Hawthorne family and gain access to the company's inner workings. Olivia turned to him, her eyes blazing. So that's all I was to you? A means to an end? No. Ethan's response was immediate and fervent. Olivia, you have to believe me. My mission was to get close to your family, yes, but falling in love with you, that was never part of the plan. It just happened. Victoria scoffed. Victoria, how convenient. A love story wrapped up in a federal investigation. It's the truth, Ethan insisted. I've compromised this entire operation because I couldn't bear to keep lying to Olivia. Do you think I would do that if my feelings weren't real? Olivia's head was spinning. She wanted desperately to believe Ethan, but how could she trust anything he said now? Let's focus on the matter at hand, Agent Cooper interjected. The network is planning something big. We don't know exactly what, but all signs point to a major move in the next few weeks. That's why we need your help. Our help? Victoria echoed incredulously. Haven't we been through enough? Cooper's expression softened slightly. Mrs. Hawthorne, I understand this is a lot to take in, but you and Olivia are in unique positions to help us bring down the people responsible for your husband's death and protect countless others from their schemes. Olivia leaned forward, her grief and confusion momentarily overshadowed by a burning desire for answers. What do you need us to do? Ethan looked at her with a mix of pride and concern. It's dangerous, Olivia. We can't force you to help us. They killed my father, Olivia said, her voice steely. I want to know why, and I want them to pay for it. Agent Cooper nodded approvingly. We need access to Hawthorne Technologies' financial records, the real ones, not just what's shown to the board and shareholders. We believe there's a hidden ledger that could unravel the entire network. Victoria shook her head. If such a ledger exists, I don't know about it. Charles kept some things close to his chest, especially near the end. That's where you come in, Olivia, Ethan said gently. As Charles's daughter and heir, you might have access to places and information your mother doesn't. We need you to dig into your father's personal effects, his home office, anything that might lead us to that ledger. Olivia nodded slowly, her mind already racing with possibilities. I can do that, but what about you? Won't your cover be blown now that I know the truth? Ethan exchanged a glance with Cooper before responding. That's why we need to act fast. I'll stay in my role as Nathan Blackwell for now. As far as the world is concerned, we're still newlyweds. The word newlyweds hit Olivia like a punch to the gut. Just this morning, she had woken up believing she was starting a new life with the man she loved. Now everything had changed. And what about me? Victoria asked, and her voice barely above a whisper. What am I supposed to do while my daughter puts herself in danger? Agent Cooper turned to her. Mrs. Hawthorne, your role is crucial. You need to carry on as if nothing has changed. Run your company, attend your meetings, keep up appearances. If the network suspects we're onto them, they won't hesitate to eliminate anyone they see as a threat. The gravity of the situation settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Olivia looked at her mother, seeing the fear and determination warring in her eyes. Then she turned to Ethan, the man she had married, the man she thought she knew. Despite everything, she still felt drawn to him, still saw the kindness and strength that had made her fall in love in the first place. "How long do we have?" Olivia asked, breaking the tense silence. 2 weeks, Agent Cooper replied. "That's our best estimate for when the network will make their move. Whatever they're planning, it's big, and it's soon." Ethan reached out, hesitating for a moment before gently taking Olivia's hand. This time, she didn't pull away. "I know this is a lot to ask, Olivia. If you want to walk away, I wouldn't blame you. But I promise you, if you help us, we will find out what happened to your father and bring those responsible to justice." Olivia took a deep breath, squeezing Ethan's hand as she made her decision. "I'm in. Whatever it takes, I want to uncover the truth and stop these people." Victoria stood up, smoothing down her skirt with trembling hands. "Well, I suppose I should get back to the office. We have appearances to keep up, after all." She paused at the door, looking back at her daughter with a mix of fear and pride. "Be careful, Olivia. I can't lose you too." As Victoria left, Agent Cooper stood as well. "I'll be in touch with secure ways for us to communicate. Remember, as far as anyone else is concerned, nothing has changed. You're just a happy couple back from your honeymoon." After Cooper left, Olivia and Ethan sat in silence for a long moment, the weight of their new reality settling over them. "I'm so sorry, Olivia," Ethan finally said, his voice thick with emotion. "I never meant for any of this to happen. I never meant to fall in love with you." Olivia looked at him, tears glistening in her eyes. "But you did, didn't you? Fall in love with me?" Ethan nodded, reaching out to cup her cheek gently. "More than I ever thought possible. Everything else might have been part of my cover, but my feelings for you are real. I swear it." As Olivia leaned into his touch, she knew that despite the lies and the danger ahead, her feelings for him were real too. And that, perhaps, was the most terrifying thing of all. The following days passed in a blur for Olivia. On the surface, life seemed to return to normal. She and Ethan, she still couldn't bring herself to think of him as Nathan, played the part of the happy newlyweds, smiling for neighbors and friends. But behind closed doors, their world had become a web of secrets and half-truths. Olivia threw herself into the task of searching for her father's hidden ledger. She spent hours combing through his home office, rifling through old papers and files, looking for any clue that might lead her to the truth. Ethan helped when he could, but he had to maintain his cover at work, playing the role of the successful financial consultant. It was on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, a week after their return, that Olivia finally found something promising. She was going through an old filing cabinet in her father's study when her fingers brushed against something taped to the underside of a drawer. Her heart racing, she carefully peeled away the tape to reveal a small nondescript flash drive. "Ethan," she called out, her voice trembling with excitement and fear. "I think I found something." He appeared in the doorway moments later, his eyes widening as he saw the flash drive in her hand. "Is that—" Olivia nodded. "I don't know for sure, but it was hidden. It has to be important." They hurried to Olivia's laptop, both holding their breath as she plugged in the drive. A single folder appeared, innocuously labeled Family Photos. But when Olivia clicked on it, instead of pictures, they found a series of encrypted files. "This has to be it," Ethan muttered, his fingers flying over the keyboard as he tried to decipher the encryption. "Your father was clever. This isn't going to be easy to crack." As Ethan worked on breaking the encryption, Olivia's phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Emergency board meeting called for tomorrow morning. Be there." Olivia frowned. "That's odd. Mom never involves me in board meetings." Ethan looked up from the computer, his brow furrowed. "This can't be a coincidence. The network must be making their move. But how could they know we found something?" Olivia asked, a chill running down her spine. "They might not," Ethan replied, his voice grim. "But they're clearly planning something big. We need to inform Agent Cooper." As if on cue, there was a knock at the door. Olivia and Ethan exchanged worried glances. They weren't expecting anyone. Ethan motioned for Olivia to stay quiet as he approached the door, one hand reaching for the gun he kept hidden in a drawer near the entrance. He peered through the peephole and let out a sigh of relief. "It's Cooper," he said, opening the door. Agent Cooper stepped in quickly, his face etched with concern. "We've got a problem," he said without preamble. "The network is accelerating their timeline. Whatever they're planning, it's happening tomorrow." Olivia's eyes widened. "The board meeting," she breathed. Cooper nodded. "Exactly. We think they're planning to use Hawthorne Technologies to launder a massive amount of money. We're talking billions. If they succeed, it could destabilize entire markets." "But how?" Olivia asked. struggling to understand. Even as CEO, my mother couldn't authorize something like that without the board's approval. Unless the board is in on it, Ethan said quietly. The realization hit Olivia like a ton of bricks. No, she whispered. It can't be. These people, they've been like family. Cooper's expression was sympathetic but firm. I'm afraid it's a strong possibility, Olivia. The network has had years to infiltrate your company. Some board members might be willing participants, others might be being blackmailed or coerced. What about my mother? Olivia asked, dreading the answer. We don't know for sure, Cooper admitted. But the fact that she's calling this emergency meeting, it's concerning. Ethan put a comforting hand on Olivia's shoulder. We found something, he told Cooper, gesturing to the laptop where the encrypted files were still displayed. It was hidden in Charles Hawthorne's office. We think it might be the ledger. Cooper's eyes lit up. That could be the break we need. Can you decrypt it? Ethan shook his head. Not quickly. This level of encryption would take days, maybe weeks to crack. We don't have weeks, Cooper said, frustration evident in his voice. We don't even have days. Whatever's on that drive, we need it before that board meeting tomorrow. Olivia had been quiet, her mind racing. Suddenly, she sat up straight. Wait a minute, she said, moving to the laptop. Let me try something. She opened a simple text editor and started typing in what seemed like random words. Carousel, sunflower, checkmate. To everyone's surprise, the encrypted files began to unlock. How did you do that? Ethan asked, amazed. Olivia felt tears prick her eyes. It was a game my dad and I used to play when I was little. He'd leave me encrypted messages, and I had to figure out the password. It was always 3 random words that meant something to us. As the files opened, revealing years of detailed financial records and incriminating evidence, the room fell silent. The scope of the conspiracy was staggering. Board members, executives, even some government officials were implicated in a vast money laundering scheme that had been operating for years. This is it, Cooper breathed, his eyes scanning the documents. This is everything we need to bring down the entire network. But Olivia wasn't listening. Her eyes were fixed on a name that appeared repeatedly in the files. Victoria Hawthorne. No, she whispered, her world crumbling around her once again. Not my mother. Please, not her too. Ethan pulled her into his arms, holding her as the truth sank in. Her mother, the woman who had raised her, who she thought she knew, was deeply involved in the very conspiracy that had led to her father's death. I'm so sorry, Olivia, Ethan murmured into her hair. Cooper cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable with the emotional display, but aware of the gravity of the situation. I know this is a lot to process, Olivia, but we need to act fast. With this evidence, we can move against the network, but we need to do it before the board meeting tomorrow. Olivia pulled away from Ethan, wiping her eyes. When she spoke, her voice was steady, filled with a determination that surprised even her. What do you need me to do? Cooper laid out the plan. Olivia would attend the board meeting as planned, wearing a wire to record any incriminating conversations. Ethan and a team of FBI agents would be standing by, ready to move in and make arrests once they had concrete evidence of the money laundering attempt. It's dangerous, Cooper warned. If anyone suspects you're working with us, you could be in serious trouble. Olivia nodded, her jaw set. I understand, but I need to do this, for my father, and for the truth. As Cooper left to prepare for the operation, Olivia and Ethan were left alone once again. The weight of what was to come hung heavy in the air between them. Olivia, Ethan began, his voice soft. I know I've lied to you about so many things, but I need you to know that my feelings for you are real. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever you decide to do after all this is over, I love you. That's the honest truth. Olivia looked at him, seeing not Nathan Blackwell, the man she had married, but Ethan Reynolds, the man she had come to know over the past week. Despite everything, she found that her feelings hadn't changed. I love you too, she said quietly. I don't know what that means for us, with everything that's happened, but I know it's true. They spent the rest of the evening going over the plan for the next day, both acutely aware that by this time tomorrow, their lives would be irrevocably changed. As night fell, they lay in bed, holding each other close, each lost in their own thoughts about what the future might hold. Tomorrow would bring revelations, danger, and the potential downfall of a criminal empire. But for now, in the quiet darkness of their bedroom, Olivia and Ethan found a moment of peace in each other's arms, a calm before the storm that was about to break. The morning of the board meeting dawned grey and overcast, mirroring Olivia's turbulent emotions. She stood in front of her bedroom mirror, adjusting the wire hidden beneath her crisp white blouse. Her hands trembled slightly as she smoothed down her skirt, trying to project an air of confidence she didn't feel. Ethan appeared behind her, placing his hands gently on her shoulders. "You don't have to do this," he said softly. "We can find another way." Olivia met his eyes in the mirror, drawing strength from his steady gaze. "No, I need to see this through. For my father. For the truth. For us." He nodded, understanding the weight of her decision. "I'll be right outside with Agent Cooper and the team. If anything feels off, anything at all, you give the signal and we'll come in." With a deep breath, Olivia turned and kissed Ethan briefly. "Let's end this," she said, her voice filled with determination. The drive to Hawthorne Technologies headquarters was tense. Olivia's mind raced with questions and doubts. How deeply was her mother involved? Could she really betray her own family? As the sleek building came into view, Olivia steeled herself for what was to come. In the lobby, she was greeted by her mother's assistant, a young man named Trevor, who always seemed a bit too eager to please. "Ms. Hawthorne," he said, his voice pitched low. "Your mother asked me to escort you directly to the conference room. The other board members are already assembled." Olivia nodded, her heart rate quickening. This was it. As they walked towards the elevator, Olivia noticed increased security presence in the lobby. Men in dark suits with earpieces stood at strategic points, their eyes constantly scanning the area. She wondered if they were there to protect the board members or to ensure no one interfered with whatever was about to happen. The elevator ride to the top floor was silent, the tension palpable. When the doors opened, Olivia took a deep breath and stepped out, ready to face whatever awaited her. The conference room was a picture of corporate opulence, with its mahogany table and floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Boston. Around the table sat the men and women Olivia had known for years, people she had considered extended family. Now she looked at each face, wondering who was involved in the conspiracy that had claimed her father's life. At the head of the table sat Victoria Hawthorne, her silver hair immaculate, her posture rigid. As Olivia entered, her mother's eyes met hers, and for a moment, Olivia thought she saw a flicker of, was it regret? But it was gone in an instant, replaced by the cool, professional demeanor Victoria was known for. "Olivia, thank you for joining us," Victoria said, her voice carrying across the room. "Please take a seat. We have much to discuss." Olivia sat down, acutely aware of the wire against her skin. She hoped the pounding of her heart wasn't audible to the others in the room. Victoria cleared her throat. "Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I've called this emergency meeting because we face an unprecedented opportunity. An opportunity that, if seized, will secure the future of Hawthorne Technologies for generations to come." Olivia listened intently as her mother outlined a complex financial maneuver involving offshore accounts, shell companies, and a staggering amount of money. To the uninitiated, it might have sounded like a brilliant business strategy, but Olivia, armed with the knowledge from her father's hidden files, recognized it for what it was: a massive money laundering scheme. As Victoria spoke, Olivia glanced around the table. Some board members nodded along, clearly in on the plan. Others looked confused or concerned. One man, Harold Winters, a friend of her father's, seemed particularly agitated. "Victoria," Harold interrupted, his voice shaking slightly, "what you're proposing, it's not just risky, it's illegal. We can't possibly—" "Harold," Victoria cut him off, her tone sharp. "We've discussed this. The benefits far outweigh any potential risks. And I assure you, everything has been carefully arranged to protect us all." Olivia's blood ran cold at her mother's words. This wasn't just about money laundering. This was a full-scale corruption of everything her father had built. "Mom," Olivia spoke up, her voice steadier than she felt. "This isn't right. Dad would never have approved of this." The room fell silent, all eyes turning to Olivia. Victoria's gaze hardened. "Olivia, dear, you don't understand the complexities of what we're dealing with. Your father, he was an idealist. But idealism doesn't keep a company afloat in today's cutthroat business world." "Is that why he died?" Olivia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because he was an idealist?" A collective gasp went around the room. Victoria's face paled. "What are you talking about?" Olivia stood, her hands flat on the table. "I know, Mom. About everything. The network, the money laundering, Dad's murder. I found his files." Chaos erupted in the conference room. Board members started shouting, some trying to leave, others demanding explanations. Victoria remained seated, her face a mask of shock and, was that relief? Suddenly, the doors burst open. Ethan led a team of FBI agents into the room, their weapons drawn. FBI, nobody move! In the ensuing confusion, Olivia locked eyes with her mother. For a moment, the cool corporate facade crumbled, and Olivia saw the woman who had raised her, who had loved her. "I'm sorry," Victoria mouthed, tears welling in her eyes. As the FBI agents began to read rights and place people under arrest, Olivia felt a hand on her arm. She turned to see Ethan, concern etched on his face. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Olivia nodded, though she felt far from okay. "It's over," she said, her voice hollow. But it wasn't over. Not yet. As Ethan led Olivia out of the conference room, a commotion erupted in the hallway. Trevor, the assistant who had escorted Olivia earlier, was running towards them, his face contorted with rage. "You ruined everything," he screamed, pulling a gun from his jacket. Time seemed to slow down. Olivia saw Ethan reach for his own weapon, saw the FBI agents turning towards the new threat, but Trevor was too close, too fast. A shot rang out, echoing through the hallway. Olivia felt a searing pain in her side as she fell, Ethan's arms wrapping around her protectively. More shots followed, and then silence. Olivia's vision blurred, the world around her fading in and out of focus. She was vaguely aware of Ethan's voice, urgent and scared, calling her name. She tried to respond, but the words wouldn't come. As darkness crept in at the edges of her vision, Olivia's last thought was of her father. Had he felt like this in his final moments? Confused, in pain, with so many questions left unanswered. The world faded to black, and Olivia Hawthorne slipped into unconsciousness, leaving behind a room full of shocked faces, a mother in handcuffs, and a man who had come to love her more than his own life. In the silence that followed, as paramedics rushed in and FBI agents secured the scene, the future hung in the balance. The truth had come out, but at what cost? And what would happen when, if, Olivia opened her eyes again? The answers to these questions would have to wait. For now, as Ethan held Olivia's hand in the back of a speeding ambulance, all that mattered was the faint, steady beep of the heart monitor, a sound that meant hope, that meant life. That meant this wasn't the end of their story. Not yet. The steady beep of a heart monitor was the first sound Olivia heard as she slowly regained consciousness. Her eyelids felt heavy, but she forced them open, blinking against the harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital room. As her vision cleared, she saw Ethan slumped in a chair beside her bed, his head resting on the edge of the mattress, his hand intertwined with hers. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. His head shot up, eyes wide with relief and joy. "Olivia, thank God," he breathed, gently squeezing her hand. "How are you feeling?" She took a moment to assess. There was a dull ache in her side, but the pain was manageable. "Like I've been shot," she said with a weak smile. "How long was I out?" 3 days, Ethan replied, his voice thick with emotion. "The doctors said you were lucky. The bullet missed any vital organs, but you lost a lot of blood." Memories of the chaotic scene at Hawthorne Technologies came flooding back. The board meeting, her mother's confession, Trevor's attack. "What happened after I was shot?" she asked hesitantly. Ethan's expression darkened. "Trevor was taken down by the FBI agents. He didn't survive. We later found out he was deeply involved with the network, acting as their inside man at Hawthorne Technologies." Olivia nodded slowly, processing the information. "And my mother," Ethan sighed, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "She's in custody, along with most of the board members. Some were more involved than others. Your mother, she's been cooperating with the investigation. She claims she was blackmailed into participating in the scheme." Olivia felt a mix of emotions wash over her. Anger, disappointment, and a lingering love for the woman who had raised her. "Do you believe her?" she asked softly. "I don't know," Ethan admitted. "That's something you'll have to decide for yourself. She's been asking to see you." Before Olivia could respond, there was a soft knock at the door. Agent Cooper entered, looking tired but satisfied. "Ms. Hawthorne, it's good to see you awake. How are you feeling?" "I've been better," Olivia replied wryly. "But I hear we got them." Cooper nodded, a small smile playing at his lips. "Thanks to you and the evidence from your father's files, we've managed to unravel the entire network. Arrests are being made across the country. It's the biggest white-collar crime bust in decades. A sense of pride welled up in Olivia's chest, tempered by a deep sadness. "My father would be glad to know his death wasn't in vain," she said quietly. "About that," Cooper said, his expression turning serious, "we've uncovered new information about your father's death. It turns out he wasn't murdered by the network as we initially thought." Olivia sat up straighter, ignoring the twinge of pain in her side. "What do you mean?" Cooper glanced at Ethan before continuing. "According to Victoria's testimony and corroborating evidence, your father discovered the money laundering scheme and was planning to expose it. But before he could, he had a confrontation with Trevor." "Trevor?" Olivia gasped. "But he was just an assistant." "He was much more than that," Ethan interjected. "Trevor was the network's main operative within Hawthorne Technologies. He had been working his way up for years, gaining trust and access." Cooper nodded. "During the confrontation, your father had a heart attack. Trevor saw an opportunity and staged it to look like an accident. He then used the situation to blackmail Victoria into compliance." Olivia felt tears welling up in her eyes. The truth about her father's death, while still tragic, offered a strange kind of comfort. He had died trying to do the right thing, just as she had always believed. "What happens now?" she asked, wiping her eyes. "Now," Cooper said, "we start the long process of prosecutions and hopefully restitution. Hawthorne Technologies will need to undergo a major restructuring, but with the right leadership it can survive this scandal." Olivia nodded, understanding the implied responsibility. Her family's company, her father's legacy, would need her now more than ever. As Cooper left, promising to return with more updates, Olivia turned to Ethan. "What about us?" she asked softly. "Where do we go from here?" Ethan took her hand, his eyes full of love and uncertainty. "That's up to you, Olivia. My undercover assignment is over, but my feelings for you are very real. If you'll have me, I want to stay by your side through all of this." Olivia smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest that had nothing to do with her injury. "I love you, Ethan, the real you, real. And I want us to face whatever comes next together." Over the next few weeks, as Olivia recovered and the legal proceedings began, she found herself at the center of a media storm. The Hawthorne scandal, as it came to be known, was front-page news across the country. But with Ethan's unwavering support and her own inner strength, Olivia faced the challenges head-on. She testified against the network, sharing her father's hidden files and her own experiences. It was a grueling process, but with each passing day, she felt herself growing stronger, more confident in her ability to navigate this new reality. The hardest moment came when she finally agreed to meet with her mother. Victoria, looking pale and diminished in her prison jumpsuit, broke down in tears as soon as she saw her daughter. "I'm so sorry, Olivia," she sobbed. "I never meant for any of this to happen. I thought I was protecting you, protecting the company. But I was wrong, so terribly wrong." Olivia listened as her mother explained how she had been drawn into the network's web, how fear and misguided loyalty had led her to make choices she now deeply regretted. It wasn't easy to hear, and forgiveness seemed like a distant possibility. But as Olivia left the prison that day, she felt a small crack in the wall of anger and disappointment she had built around her heart. Months passed, and slowly life began to find a new rhythm. Olivia took over as CEO of Hawthorne Technologies, working tirelessly to rebuild the company's reputation and implement stringent ethical practices. Ethan, having left the FBI, stood by her side, offering support and love as she navigated the complex world of corporate leadership. It was on a crisp autumn evening, almost a year after the fateful board meeting, that Ethan surprised Olivia with a picnic in the Boston Public Garden. As they sat beneath a canopy of golden leaves, he took her hand and looked into her eyes. "Olivia," he began, his voice filled with emotion, "this past year has been the most challenging and the most rewarding of my life. We've been through so much together, and my love for you has only grown stronger." Olivia felt her heart racing as Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I know our beginning was unconventional," he continued with a smile, "but I want our future to be built on truth and trust. Olivia Hawthorne, will you marry me? For real this time?" Tears of joy sprang to Olivia's eyes as she nodded emphatically. "Yes," she whispered, 1,000 times yes. As Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger, a beautiful sapphire surrounded by diamonds, Olivia felt a sense of peace wash over her. The past year had been a whirlwind of pain, revelation, and growth, but through it all, she had discovered her own strength, honored her father's memory, and found a love that could withstand even the greatest of challenges. Looking out over the tranquil waters of the garden's lagoon, Olivia realized that the enormous black box that had appeared in her hallway a year ago had contained more than just shocking revelations. It had held the key to her true self, to justice, and to a love that would last a lifetime. As the sun set over Boston, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, Olivia and Ethan held each other close, ready to face whatever the future might hold. Together.